Good afternoon. We're going to wait a few more minutes and we'll get started. If there's any Spanish speakers in the audience, Elsa Martinez is in the back of the room and can help you out with that, and she'll do an introduction as well.
Hello? Can you hear me? Buenas tardes y bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Elsa Martínez. Si hay alguna persona que desee escuchar esta audiencia en español, ¿me puede, por favor, levantar su brazo para darles un audífono?
Good evening. We are going to go ahead and get started today. My name is Amanda Reese. I am with the County Administrative Office, and so today we're going to do a presentation, just a quick overview on the redistricting process, but really get into more detail on the communities of interest and how outreach will be going and how we need your help on the participation. If you look on here, for those on our line, not only are you here in person and we have Spanish translation, we also have our English phone line and our Spanish phone line. And please let us know at any time if you have any technical difficulties, and we will figure that out as soon as possible. Then if we can get the PowerPoint on the screen. Thank you. All right, well, welcome. So we're going to go, this is just the main topics we're going to go over today, and just let you know, if you would like to view this is on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, just note that there is a 30-second delay. So what is redistricting? Every 10 years after the release of the census, we go through a process called redistricting. This is also occurring on a congressional level as well as with their state legislative districts. The county must also do redistricting every 10 years. As you know, our census data typically comes out in April. For us, this go around, we are still waiting on the final census data. We have gotten the initial data, but waiting for the final set, and we'll get into that as well. So for Kern County redistricting, our process is completed by the Board of Supervisors utilizing a consultant called Redistricting Partners. According to the Fair Maps Act, it requires at least 4 public hearings, one of those to occur before the census data is released and 3 following the release of that data. And so all of our meetings must be available to the public and online, and that is at our redistricting website, which I will show as well. So this process will include community outreach hearings. We've had a few workshops, and we will continue to do those. We will provide ways where you can provide community of interest input, and we will make available draft maps for the public. So here is our redistricting timeline. We had, in April, we had our first public redistricting workshop where we went over the general process of how it will work. We intended to have our first official hearing on July 31st, but due to technical difficulties, we are having that again tonight. So where we are right now, we've gotten initial census data, but we are waiting for the release of the final data expected at the end of April, which will include the prisoner reallocated census data. And then our deadline for all of this to be approved by the Board of Supervisors is December 15th, which is 174 days before our next election. So this is our current meeting schedule. This is on our website as well. So today is a public hearing to go over the community of interest meeting, and then we'll have the next 4 meetings will be at the Board of Supervisors on September through November. So there are a number of criteria that we have to use as we go through the redistricting process. Typically, they have to be relatively equal size with a typical less than 10% deviation. The district should be contiguous, which means they shouldn't hop or skip or meet at corners. Maintain communities of interest, and then follow city, county, local government lines. And then also making sure we keep our districts compact. So community of interest, this is what we'll go through a lot today, are the building blocks of our district. A community of interest includes ethnic and language minorities or other groups. So it is subjective. It can be open-ended to be inclusive as possible. And then some of the voting examples of Voting Rights Act communities are Latinos, Asians, or African Americans. So examples of community interest can be historical communities, tourism areas. It can be a downtown region. Excuse me, just a second. So part of this process is to make sure that you know your communities best. So it's important that we make sure you guys are included in this process and that we know what is important to you. Is a like-minded group. These are just examples. It is not inclusive. So we're definitely encouraging your support. So what is not a community of interest? The Fair Maps Act explicitly prohibits these groups being considered as community of interest, so it cannot be based on political party affiliation, political candidates. While it's also hard in redistricting to truly consider groups of similarly minded people who do not share geographic location, so it cannot be stretched across. I guess technically it can be across the entire county, but typically it should be in a compact geographic location. And so what is considered a community of interest? So there's 3 questions, and these questions will also be on the forms. Does the community of interest have shared culture, characteristics, or a bond? Is the community geographic in nature? Is the community able to be mapped? What is the community's relationship with the jurisdiction being redistricted? How is it affected by the policy decisions made by the elected officials? So here are the community of interest forms. This is where we are encouraging your participation and the groups that we represent. We will have this in paper form, and I will go where you can show this, where you can upload this yourself if you would like. We're also encouraging map submissions of your community of interest. If you can map where your community of interest is located, we are accepting those as well. And so those we will accept throughout this entire process. We will also have District R, which is an electronic tool to map your community of interest. Later on, once we get the census data, you'll also be able to map the districts as well. And then we will have it in paper form as well, where you can map districts. So right now I know that was quite quick, but I really want to make sure we focus on how you can map and register your community of interest. If I can now switch over to our website. Thank you. So this is on our, this is on our main Kern County homepage. If you would like to go back and find it later, on this green button here, it says redistricting information, and that will link you to our website. We have this in English and in Spanish. So here you'll find all our information about the future meetings. But if you click on boundary maps, you'll be able to see, well, not only the current maps, but you'll be able to submit your own map. So first, I'll go into the community of interest. If you're wanting to register your community of interest, you can do that in a few ways. So we'll have an online form that you'll go into. Just 1 second while it loads. And you'll be able to fill that out, and that will get sent to our redistricting team. If you go back, you can also get the paper form, fill that, write it out, and submit it. And it'll ask you those same 3 questions. On the questions here, it'll say whether the community interest in your community, explain the geographic location of your community of interest, what are the physical boundaries, so you can, this is more of a narrative, and then you can also include your map with it. And then the 3rd question says, what is the rationale for your community of interest to be used in the Board of Supervisors redistricting process? Describe the issues before the Board of Supervisors and how it's had an impact on your community. And so for those forms, any of those forms, if you would like to fill that out, and maybe you want to fill it out later and submit it, you don't have to come down here. You can submit your map at any Kern County library, and those will be sent back to our office, and we will give you confirmation that we have received that. In addition is also the community of interest map. So this is, if you've been at the previous meetings, you've seen these, you can print these out and map your community of interest, and then same thing, you can send them back to any of the library branches in your neighborhood, and then those will get back to us as well. Excuse me. So if we have our electronic tool, which I mentioned is called District R. Right now it's set up for our community of interest mapping. You can see it pulls up to our county. If you hit this little paintbrush here, it'll pull out the blue color. You can add multiple colors if you're drawing multiple communities of interest. And you can start shading wherever your community interest lies. So you can shade it here. I'm just kind of playing with it. You can name whatever your community of interest is. I'll just say it's not really where Hart Park is, but you can say this is Hart Park, and you can describe it in this box and say why you want to make sure your community interest, how your community of interest has been impacted by policy in the county, what are the boundaries that exist, and this can also be saved and then emailed back to our team. And you can email that back to Redistricting. Or you can print this out, and same thing, if you'd rather print it out and send it back to us. And oops. So I'm going to go back to our District R website. What we don't have right now is the system is not yet updated with the census data. It will be once we get the final information. You can use it, but what it does use is the 2019 American Community Survey data. So if you are wanting to draw district lines as opposed to communities, this is how you would do that. So if you see on the top right here, I don't know if you can see where my cursor is, it says draw districts or draw communities. This one has draw districts highlighted. And so if you hit counties, you'll see Kern County is on there. But if on this right-hand side, it will say it uses 2019 American Community Survey data population. So that is not yet updated, but you are more than welcome to draw districts utilizing that. But just note that it is not updated information as of yet. So you can draw, if you would like to do a community of interest form and a community of interest map, you can do that on our website, or like I mentioned before, you can send that back into any library branch. So if you are not located in Bakersfield or you're not in downtown Bakersfield, you can send that at any library. We want to make sure that that's accessible to everybody. And you're still more than welcome to drop them off at the county administrative office as well. So for now, that is all I have for my presentation. Now we'll go, if there's public comment on our Spanish Teams line, I will encourage that at this time, if we can transfer over to that.
Sí, podemos traspasarlo. Bueno, ¿hay algún comentario en español?
Sorry about that. There is no one on our Spanish Teams line. If there is anyone on our English Teams line would like to give public comment, you may do so now by pressing *6 if you're on your phone, or unmuting on your computer.
Hello, this is Imelda Ceja-Betquez. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I live in District
Hello.
1, and I support
Hello?
the Equality Coalition map. All Kern County districts deserve to have a board of supervisors that have the same interests as the community they present. Currently, we don't have that. This needs to change. I work at Kern County Department of Public Health. Although I live in District 1, I see the inequities throughout the districts. Specifically, I want to talk to you today about District 1, which the proposed mapping would include Kern River Valley, Tehachapi, Ridgecrest, Rosemont, Taft, and Mojave. Rural and remote Kern County communities have far too many unmet basic needs like access to internet, healthcare, hospitals, fire and response. Bakersfield shouldn't get everything. Working at the public health department, I could tell you, I participate in a lot of community events, a lot of collaboratives. I work with a lot of partners, and it's often said, and they complain, they are not properly represented. They lack of transportation, medical. Their needs are so unmet. It seems really unfair that the Board of Supervisors only are concentrating on the greater Bakersfield. These rural communities in Kern, the mountains and deserts with shared interests should be together in the same district. They need to be represented by a Board of Supervisor that has the same interests as their community. They need this representation. This cannot continue to go on. I see the same thing happening in other districts. Again, I work at public health, and this is often an issue. Trying to find resources for these districts is almost sometimes impossible. So please, I beg you to support the Equity Coalition mapping. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could have the next speaker. Mute your line. If you're on the computer, go ahead and raise your hand if possible. If you're on your phone, hit *6. We'll take the next caller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rhodius Patel. I'm currently in Supervisor Couch's district.
Go ahead and unmute again with. Oh.
Is that better?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, my name is Rhodius Patel. I currently live in Supervisor Couch's district, and all I'm doing is calling to say that I support the Equity Coalition map.
Thank you. Was that the end of your public comment today? All right. We'll go on to the next caller or speaker on the Teams line.
Hi, this is Dr. Kruzman. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm born and raised here in Kern County, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Equity Coalitions map, specifically proposed District 4. I had 4 things I wanted to mention. The first was I just wanted to say it was really difficult to provide a public comment in a socially distanced mechanism. I tried pre-recording and emailing my comment and sending several emails and didn't get a response. So I just want to indicate that I don't feel like this is actually a really democratic process for engaging the community. I'm very experienced with Zoom as a public educator, and I really feel like this wasn't an accessible process. But to my other 3 points, I want to speak as a mother, a community leader, and also a public educator. The first is I understand, and I want to acknowledge that all of the boards of supervisors have built relationships within their community, and they do work to really try and set a foundation of support for the folks that they serve. So asking them to create boundaries that cleave them from those communities which they're so closely aligned is a difficult ask. But, you know, to comply with the Fair Maps Act of 2019 and also to do the moral ethical thing, I think that that's the hard decision I'm hoping they'll make with their vote. You know, it's really important. All of the Board of Supervisors lives in the Central Valley, and they understand, like us, that the demographics are constantly shifting and changing here, and it's been a long time coming. We need a big shift in these maps that reflect that. On to my second point, I'm a public educator, and I teach in Arvin and Lamont, and you know, I teach for Bakersfield College. We just graduated our first early college students. After 4 years, they got both a high school diploma as well as an associate's degree in communication, and it has been one of the great honors of my life to get to teach in that community. But I'll return to that in a second, how amazing it is the students were able to accomplish that. Because first I want to say that the current District 4 is Seven Oaks, Lamont, and Arvin. And I want to say that one more time because I'm on the phone and I don't know if people can really hear me. The current District 4 is Seven Oaks, multi-million-dollar homes, and in the poorest, most disenfranchised part of the Central Valley, which is Lamont and Arvin. And if we look at our census data, we know that 37% of people in Bakersfield proper try to attain higher education. But when we drive 20 minutes to Arvin and Lamont, that drops to 1.9%. So that means that 1 in 3 people in Seven Oaks are going, I haven't disaggregated specifically for Seven Oaks, but are trying to acquire education, but only 1 in 50 is doing that in Arvin. And if we look at the numbers over time, we see that consistently, and that includes the time that our Board of Supervisors have been serving. Poverty has remained steady. Lack of literacy has remained steady. We see that the median income below the poverty level has remained steady. None of these things have moved up over time because we're not serving the interest of that marginalized community. We need to separate out District 4 so it does not include a more affluent neighborhood that doesn't serve the interest of our rural communities. So my third and final point, I want to say that I've gone to several organized meetings on the Equity Coalition map organizing, and they were not political meetings. They were people who live in those communities. They were well-attended, more well-attended, and more open conversation than the meeting that I'm in right now. And in those meetings, we disagreed respectfully, and we made adjustments to the map that's being presented to you today. So when you consider what those lines will be, I hope that the Board of Supervisors will uplift the voices of our most disenfranchised, will consider that community organizers and community of interest are having the hard conversations and presenting their suggestions to you today. And I hope that you will vote to follow the law, follow your conscience, and uplift the most marginalized people in our community by supporting the Equity Coalition map. Thank you so much for letting me be heard.
Thank you very much. We'll go to our next speaker on the line. Is there anyone else on the English virtual line that would like to speak? Go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Troy Hightower. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I have a few things. One, the technology is, again, a problem. I wasn't able to follow I'm calling in on the phone, and I try and watch the PowerPoint on the YouTube, but that was impossible because of the delay. So I have a few questions. One of them is, you said the last meeting, because of technical difficulties, you didn't consider it to be a hearing. Does that mean any maps that we, or communities of interest that we submitted at that meeting, you're recording?
We are still accepting maps, and they will all be posted on our website within the next week. So we are taking any and all maps during this period.
Okay, another question I have is, my understanding is that the boundary lines must align with either the census tracts or block groups. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question one more time?
The district lines, my understanding, they must align with existing census tracts or block groups.
Generally, yes, they do.
Okay, I would suggest that you also post the census tract maps and the block group maps. That may help people. And that's all for me.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Is there anyone else on our English Teams line that would like to speak? All right, I'm going to go back to our Spanish Teams line to see if there's anyone else who would like to speak.
A ver, no se vayan, lo que ahorita vamos a hablar, espérense. I'm hearing them off of this here. Yeah, you're going to. Okay, so I speak right into it, right? Okay. Ahora sí pueden hablar. Bueno. Leticia Leal.
Mi nombre es Ana Leticia Gordián, vivo en el área de Lamont y apoyo el mapa de la coalición.
¿Leticia qué? ¿Cómo se llama?
Gordián, Alma Leticia Gordián.
My name is Leticia Gordián. Ok, sígale.
Vivo en Lamont y apoyo el mapa de la coalición de equidad para que haya una representación justa.
And I support the Equality Coalition map.
Para que haya una representación justa para que haya una representación justa en mi comunidad.
So my community can have fair representation.
Gracias.
Thank you. ¿Alguien más? Bueno.
Buenas tardes, ¿me escucha?
Sí.
Mire, mi nombre es Laura Cruz.
My name is Laura Cruz.
Estoy hablando de aquí de Bakersfield.
I'm calling from Bakersfield.
Me gustaría que las personas que nos tocan, que nos representen nuestra comunidad, visiten nuestra comunidad y vean las necesidades tan grandes que hay. Tristemente, las personas que nos representan.
Okay. I would like for the people that represent us to come into our communities and see the great needs that we have. Okay, sígale.
Tristemente, las personas que nos representan no conocen nuestra área y sus necesidades.
The people who represent us do not know our area and are not aware of our needs.
Tenemos fosas sépticas.
We have septic tanks.
No tenemos banquetas.
We have no sidewalks.
Alumbrado público.
No public internet.
No hay un parque seguro donde nuestros hijos puedan caminar y disfrutar de una bonita tarde fuera de casa.
There's no safe parks where families can go walk and enjoy a pleasant evening.
Necesitamos urgentemente un semáforo porque ha habido muchos accidentes.
We urgently need a stoplight because there's been a lot of accidents.
Es cruce de niños de escuela y no hay un semáforo y ha habido muchos accidentes debido a eso.
It's a school intersection and there's been many accidents because of lack of
La calle es la principal es White Lane y Gordon Street.
White Lane y qué?
Gordon Street.
It's the corner of White Lane and Golden State.
Street. Por eso invito a las personas que nos representan, por favor, visiten nuestras comunidades y ellos bien sientan las necesidades que hay. Por eso no nos representan bien, porque no saben las necesidades tan grandes que hay en nuestra comunidad.
I invite our representatives to come and see the great needs that we have here. I feel we're not being well represented because they are not aware of our great needs.
Gracias.
Thank you. ¿Alguien más? ¿Hay alguien más que quiere hacer un comentario en español?
Okay, and now we're going to go back to our English Teams line. I think I was too quick on that button. So if there's anyone else on the English Teams line that would like to give public comment, please unmute yourself or hit *6.
I would like to speak. I could speak in Spanish or English.
Yes, I would like to give public comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Tyler, and I represent the mountain and high desert area in 1 district. We need a supervisor that focuses on the rural, mountain, high desert communities and not just the Bakersfield. We want to keep our African American communities together in Area D3. Our goal is to go ahead and keep supporting the Equity Coalition map. As the map can be shown, it will show that the population or people of African American and also Latino population, and the people that's representing us are not representing us because in this high desert, I'll give you an example, we do not have hospitals. We need that. As for is a lot of us in our communities have to travel out so far to get decent help, medical care, and we don't have equality medical care. Also, we don't have quality internet service, for we are also in a rural area, so that serves the purpose of a lot of us not being able to get to our medical doctor's appointments or anything of that sort, because if our internet is down, we don't have any availability to reach out to anyone. If we draw the 3 Effective Voting Rights Act, we will see the majority of the districts. We see Lamont and Arbine and Reed Patch. We keep the rural farm worker communities in the same district together and not with Seven Oaks or any other super rich neighborhoods. We put the Rosedale with West and Northwest Bakersfield and Oildale, keep them together. We return D5 to its traditional lines. We keep Punjabi communities together in 1 district, D3. Valley communities have different needs for mountains and rural high desert communities. And that is all I would like to say.
Thank you. And we'll go to the next person. If you'd like to unmute or hit *6 to unmute.
I, Hortensia Cabral, would like to speak if it's my turn.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Hortensia Cabral. I am a constituent here of Bakersfield. Currently, I reside in District 2. And I would like to call in and state that I support the current equitable map that is being presented by the Dolores Huerta Foundation. Currently, District 2, or the area that I live in, is married up with other communities, like up in Pine Mountain and Fraser Park and Tehachapi. And while I do appreciate and love those communities a lot, I also think that I have in my area something less in common with them than I do with what I would currently, if the map as presented by the Dolores Huerta Foundation, I would be in a majority district with Latinos. We are a hardworking middle-class community, and I think if we were to marry up with what they're proposing, we would obviously get better representation by someone that I think would understand the Latino community better than what we currently have at the moment. I also think that Tehachapi and Pine Mountain and those rural areas deserve their own supervisor that puts attention to their needs, because they have different needs than we do, and they struggle to get the services that they require up there. So that's all I have to state.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, this is Troy Hightower again, and I would really encourage you to find a better system to conduct these meetings. It's been very difficult to follow along. I have to watch the video on a YouTube and call in on the phone, and they're not synced up, so it's very difficult. So I would encourage you to try and work that out for your next meetings.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to provide a public comment on our English line?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good afternoon. My name is Ricardo Doyle, and I live in Kern County's 1st District. I'm here today as a resident of Kern County and union representative for over 6,000 home care workers that choose to live and work here in Kern County. I'm here in support of the Equity Coalition map being proposed. We believe this map will improve the quality of life for all residents of Kern County and create representation that engages all of its communities. The Equity Coalition map is based on 2020 census data and reflects the significant increase in populations of Kern County's community of color. The Equity Coalition map includes 3 Latino majority districts to reflect Kern County's current demographics. Keeping communities of interest whole in the redistricting process is one of several required redistricting criteria in California. Lastly, I support the Equity Coalition map because it is based on equity indicators like pollution burden, COVID impact, and socioeconomic factors, and Kern's history of land use discrimination, as well as it protects our taxpayer money by being in full and clear compliance with California Fair Maps Act of 2019 and Voting Rights Acts, which reduces the risk of expensive litigation. Thank you to the County of Kern for hosting this public hearing. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you. We'll go to the next speaker on our line.
Oh, hello?
Hello, go
May
ahead.
I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Renee Westelusk, and I live in the current District 1 Supervisorial District. I live in Ridgecrest, California. I disagree with the Kern equitable maps as currently drawn. If you combine the current first supervisorial district and the second supervisorial district, which is what their maps show, you will have this giant supervisorial district that's the equivalent of like 2/3 of the land mass of the whole county. And it's too big of a geography, and the people that are already receiving services in District 1 and 2 will have their services cut in half because they will only have one supervisor. And that one supervisor will also have to represent 2 military bases and the Mojave Air and Spaceport. It's too much for one supervisor to represent and all that geography and all those little towns. And the people that have spoken earlier about creating a mountain district, it's not a mountain district. Half of it is, or more, is desert. And the services the mountain districts are getting now will be cut in half that they've been talking about, because they'll just have one supervisor instead of being represented by the two. So I oppose the current equitable maps. I'm asking the Board of Supervisors to draw fair maps so that the representation of the two military bases is adequate. We need one supervisor for each military base. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment on our English Teams line? Okay, now we'll go to our audience that is in attendance. If you would like to give public comment, now is the time. If you would like some translation, please let us know as well.
Good evening. My name is Camila Chavez. I'm the Executive Director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. The DHF has been working on redistricting for the past 5 years. Where's the camera? Where am I looking? Look away, Chiquito. Okay. We engaged with the Board of Supervisors on the Luna case to redraw the county districts in 2018. DHF then worked on the Kern High School District later that year and the Kern Community College District in 2020. DHF has trained, engaged, and empowered hundreds of Kern County residents in this important civic endeavor. Now, we are back to discuss the Kern County Board of Supervisor districts, a process that only happens every 10 years. We are excited to be here in partnership with the following organizations: the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment, Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, the Central Labor Council, Central Valley United for Power, SEIU Local 521, United Domestic Workers, and other organizations and individuals who are part of the Equitable Maps Coalition. The maps being presented today have been developed in collaboration with hundreds of Kern County residents. Our collective experiences have brought the quantitative and qualitative data to life. The maps the Equity Coalition are proposing enlarge what is currently District 1. We've heard a lot about that already. I'm a resident of Keene, a mountain community in the Tehachapi foothills, and I think that the proposed District 1 does a great job of keeping our mountain communities together. Kernville, Lake Isabella, Tehachapi, Mojave, California City, Fraser Park, and Taft have a lot in common. We share the similar geographic characteristics and resource challenges, many that have already been mentioned this evening. I ask that the mountain and high desert communities be acknowledged as one community of interest and kept together in the same district, District 1, as proposed, and that the Equity Coalition map be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. To also address the last comment, the geography is large, yet the populations are equal in the districts we are proposing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Dolores Huerta, the president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. Decisions made by our representatives affect the lives in our county. The latest reports from the state show that we have been designated as a public health order county. COVID outreach could have been more effective months ago when a coalition of experienced nonprofit community organizations came to the board. Applying for the CARE grant, we were rejected because one of the groups had used their First Amendment rights to speak out. This heartless action proves that the underserved communities of color do not have the representation on the board that they need, representation that cares about their very lives. I live in the proposed 3rd district, which has been drawn to secure representation for communities of color. I request that this board, current board, support these new district lines and do not spend millions of dollars, as they did, fighting the representation that in the Luna case, and that these new redistricting maps, this is the kind of representation that the majority communities deserve. We have seen the loss of many lives and thousands that have become ill from COVID-19. It is obvious that the Luna settlement did not solve the problem of representation for our underrepresented communities, and the residents of Kern County here have had to pay with their health and with their lives. We cannot have this continue. I mentioned that I am a resident of the new proposed District 3, and the Dolores Huerta Foundation has been in the other communities of Lamont, Arvin, and Weed Patch now for over 17 years, working to improve those communities. So we cannot do it by ourselves. We need the help of the Board of Supervisors to really take the necessary actions and to really give us a chance for the representation that we need, people that really care about our communities, and these are the maps that are being represented by the Equality Coalition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Castro, and I'm here in support of the proposed maps by the Equity Map Coalition. I'm also the Deputy Director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and as mentioned, I've gotten the opportunity to work with many residents across Kern County in the redistricting process, as an example in the Kern High School District redistricting process. But I'm here today to talk as a resident of Bakersfield. As an immigrant growing up in Kern County and living in the community of Greenfield, I quickly realized major differences when driving across town. Many of our roads were and are unpaved. Communities across town had beautiful paved roads, more green spaces, shopping areas, and kept parks. I am here today to support the Equity Coalition map because I believe this proposed map will make a huge difference for the residents of Kern to ensure that we have equitable representation and the resources that we desperately need. I'm supporting this map for many reasons because it equalizes representation of communities of color by drawing 3 districts that are reflective of the current demographics of Kern County, according to the 2020 census data. It excludes political party information and where current supervisors live. It protects our taxpayer money and is in full compliance of the California Fair Map Act and Voting Rights Act. And it takes into consideration a variety of factors for communities of interest, as it was already mentioned. For example, the community of Lamont and Arvin together in District 5, and keeping the Punjabi community together in District 3. I have the privilege of now living in Southwest Bakersfield, which would be District 4 as proposed by the Equity Maps Coalition. The proposed District 4 provides the opportunity for fair representation for my community by making sure that Seven Oaks is not included in District 4. This is important because my community does not have similar characteristics to that of Seven Oaks, which has high residential housing values, gated communities, and golf courses. I can guarantee you that our income levels are not the same, and that my community and my neighbors have many different challenges and needs. This proposed map allows Seven Oaks to be included in District 2 with Rosedale, which has very similar characteristics. I am requesting that District 4 gets the equitable representation it needs by ensuring that the Seven Oaks community is not part of District 4, but rather encompassed in District 2 with similar communities of interest. For this reason, I believe that I am in full support of the Equity Coalition map that really provides fair representation for all Kern County residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, supervisors. My name is Kathleen Weinstein, and I live in Pine Mountain Club, and I support the Equity Coalition map. It will save the taxpayers money. Full and clear compliance with the California Fair Maps Act and the Voting Rights Act just reduces the risk of expensive litigation. Rural and remote Kern County communities like mine have many unmet basic needs, like internet access, reliable cell phone service, health care, especially home care. That's an issue that is not recognized in rural communities. We just don't get it. We don't have paved roads in many of our communities. Many of our communities have one road that goes in and out, and it's lined by dead trees. So when there's a fire, there's going to be a big problem. Bakersfield gets a lot of the money. We don't get it. Kern is a very large county. We recognize that, and we recognize that District 1 is drawn on the Equity Coalition map, covers a lot of territory. It takes an hour from my home to get to Bakersfield to speak to you, and an hour back. So having maybe satellite offices in different parts of the county might be a way for a supervisor to get the ear, or for us to get the ear of the supervisor. Somebody has to listen. Rural and desert communities share a lot of interest, and they should be together in one district with a dedicated supervisor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lori Pasante, and I'm the Director of Civic Engagement for the Dolores Huerta Foundation. Our goal in the redistricting process this year is to empower communities to draw equitable maps. And I think we have seen here tonight that our efforts have been tremendously beneficial to all of Kern County. We've seen just a veritable garden of thoughts and experiences and perspectives from every corner of our county. And I'm really, really proud to say that it's because we started meeting with people every week back in January. Every week, we welcome anyone and everyone who is interested in equitable maps for all Kern County, not just the Board of Supervisors, but also school districts, the cities, everything, water districts. Anybody who wants fair maps at every level of this year's redistricting process is welcome to join us. And pretty much everybody you've heard from tonight, even the folks who disagree with us, the map that we're presenting at least, they have all been at our meetings learning from one another, learning from the materials that are available, and certainly learning about each other's experiences in the county. It has been a beautiful, beautiful experience. Unfortunately, we didn't see this as a result of the county's redistricting process. Perhaps it's because it's the first year that the California Fair Maps Act has applied to require cities and counties to engage with the public in good faith. We've certainly offered the example of Tulare County, and certainly we can connect you with some folks up there who have been doing exactly what needs to be done. Consistent, regular workshops, education, participation support, et cetera, from all county staff and from any consultants that they work with. I noticed that Redistricting Partners is not here, so I would like to note a couple things for the record. We had a resident attempt to provide comment tonight, but unfortunately they are now sick with COVID. They tried to send an email and it got bounced back, and they weren't the only one. Redistricting@kerncounty.com has been the designated redistricting input email address since you began this process. It's very concerning to me that we're only catching this problem today. Who knows how many people have attempted to provide input but had it bounced back or otherwise not been aware that it was not received. I invite anyone sending input to the county at this address to also CC it to me if you wish, and I'll make sure that we follow up and address whatever problems might be happening. My address is available on doloreshuerta.org. Under staff section, you can find me there and find my email address. My name is Lori Pasante. The additional problems related to process, we made the county aware of this 2 weeks ago when we sent a 4-page letter related to the process problems. And we've seen again Spanish speakers attempt to provide comment and be denied until I received a text message from a person who is assisting their participation, told me that they were on the line but were disconnected and not able to participate. They were able ultimately to speak, but this problem needs to be addressed. It is unacceptable, and it has happened at every meeting that we've had for redistricting in Kern County. What I really wanted to talk about, though, was this beautiful map that everybody's referring to. And we have a link to an interactive version of it. You can put your address in the map itself and find out exactly where you are in the current districts, exactly where you are in our proposed districts. You can click on layers and find out where all of our different populations are located. And in particular, I want to point out that the county has to redraw these lines. As we've heard, the current lines were the result of a lawsuit, and those settlement lines were put into place because a judge basically told them, either you all figure out your lines or I'm going to figure them out for you. Is that really what we want for the next 10 years of policy decisions from the Board of Supervisors impacting all of us in Kern County? My son is 10, he'll be 20 the next time we get a chance to do this. We have to get it right, and we believe that this coalition with all the varied voices and input is exactly what we need to be the strongest Kern County that we can be. With 909,235 people under the 2020 census data, an increase of 8.3% from the 2010 data, we've already exceeded estimates for 2030. We've increased our population by 69,598 people. And we have 75% residents of color, 75%. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supervisor seats. How many people of color do we have currently? In no way, shape, or form does that represent who we are in Kern County. In no way, shape, or form. So I brought with me tonight my mason jar of the Fair Maps Act. This is Voting Rights Act District number 3. This is Voting Rights Act District number 4. This is Voting Rights Act District number 5. They have majority Latino populations, and in particular, District 3 is a coalition district, which maximizes the empowerment of our African American communities, especially those that have suffered historical discrimination by redlining and racially restrictive covenants, which we have a layer for that too on our map if you want to check it out. Thank you, Donato Cruz. Thank you, Oliver Rosales. You both are amazing. These rocks have to get put in the mason jar first. They have to get put in the jar first. They have to be prioritized. They have to be effective. The reason why we need to have a huge district for the less dense populations in Kern County is because we got a big county. And you have to draw those Voting Rights Act districts first. If you don't draw those configurations first, you're out of compliance with the Voting Rights Act. When you draw those 3 districts first, it means the remaining 2 configurations, really you're kind of limited because you got to keep equal population. And my last point I'm going to make about the map itself and its compliance is the fact that we have our variance down to less than 0.5%. We can create 3 strong, effective voting rights districts and still maintain super equal population, which is the other big rock that has to go in the mason jar first. So if we don't draw those 3 districts first, and we don't recognize a mountain community district that is kept whole in one district, then the risk goes way, 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 way up of not having a compliant map. Our map also does not take into account partisan advantage or disadvantage or incumbent residences. It is now illegal under the California Fair Maps Act to consider partisan advantage or disadvantage, and it's strongly recommended that incumbent residents be eliminated from the consideration of the process. Our map meets those standards. So anything less than that is not going to be good enough for Kern County. It's certainly not going to be good enough for my children or your children or the next generation of people who deserve strong maps for strong representation. And we'll be able to answer any questions, of course, and our demographer is also here tonight. So if county staff or the supervisors themselves would like to learn more about the details of the data, we are here to be of support in any way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cecilia Delgado. I am a Kern resident, and I support the Equity Coalition map because we need fair representation, especially in the cities that I work in, Arvin and Lamont, where the communities lack basic needs, and the list goes on and on. Now, speaking for myself, I live in South Bakersfield, and my kids are now 13 and 15, and 10 years from now, they'll be 23 and 25. I would like for them to have better represented communities, not just for them, but for generations to come, because we simply need fair representation with approachable representatives who are able to drive by our streets and see the deficiencies that our cities have. And again, I would also like to request that we make more propaganda on this issue because everyone that I have shared this topic with have no idea what redistricting is. And again, I support the Equity Coalition map. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aruna Lamine, and I've been a Bakersfield resident now for 25 years, currently residing in District 3. I'm also a proud board member of the Democratic Women of Kern. Democratic Women of Kern fully support the Equity Coalition map as it ensures fair and equal representation of all Kern County residents and their communities. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Neil Sanapa. I am a lifelong resident of Kern County and District Number 3. I'm here to state that I support the Equity Coalition map. Oftentimes, in the past, these maps are drawn with political ambitions or political safety in mind by the Board of Supervisors. The Equity Coalition map reflects a chance for everyone in our community to be adequately represented. Instead of political safety for our representatives, we need representative safety for our communities. So everyone is represented. Supervisors have wasted far too much of our taxpayer dollars in finding changes towards accurate representation. So I'm asking that they please adopt this map because it's been put together by folks who reach out to all of our communities, especially the undeserved communities in Kern, and we need to finally give them the representation that they deserve. These groups and community organizations have done the hard work for you already, with the map being drawn in clear compliance with the Fair Maps Act and the Voting Rights Act. So I'm just asking that this map please be adopted so everybody in our community here in Kern County can get representation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janine Adams, and I live in Tehachapi. I've lived in Kern County for the last 27 years. I've raised 2 children. I'm happy to say that my son is now a teacher here in Kern County in very underserved areas. And my daughter is a nurse and helping fight this pandemic. I have really 3 reasons why I am supporting the Equity Coalition map. Number one is my own particular place where I live. I live about 10 miles outside of Tehachapi in rural Kern County. It is much different than Bakersfield. And for that reason, we really cannot be represented fairly by a supervisor who is primarily concerned with the number of people that live in Bakersfield. There are issues in my area with regard to transportation. Getting to and from doctor's appointments is very difficult, and public transportation is not adequate. It's not timely. There's not enough enough different routes for people to get where they need to go from rural communities into areas where they can get services. And I reject the thought that that our area will get half the services because we have only one supervisor. You're going to get the same level of services, however, you're going to get a supervisor that understands and can fight and look at solutions for the mountain and desert communities. Secondly, I am very strongly in favor of this map because of the process that has been engaged by the Dolores Huerta Foundation and their true commitment to having a nonpartisan effort to come together with these maps. Thirdly, as a taxpayer in Kern County and as an employee of Kern County, I work at the Kern County Assessor's Office. I feel that it's important that our supervisors in drawing these maps make the most compliant maps possible so that we are not wasting county dollars on fighting lawsuits that may ensue because maps are not drawn appropriately. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Joana Coronado, not a community resident, not associated with TDH Associates or any other organization. First things, for the PowerPoint that was presented, I highly recommend you guys edit it, especially on the slide that says Redistricting Timeline. I know immediately in the next slide you guys have the meeting dates and what type of meetings they are. However, the redistricting timeline is very misleading and might lead people to believe that a bunch of public hearings have already been done and we're almost nearing the 4 minimum public hearings, but I know that's not the case. So I highly recommend you guys edit that PowerPoint. Second of all, the boundary maps on the districtr.org website. Awesome idea. I like the idea. Very good idea. However, that idea is not such a good idea if the public does not know how to use it. I've mentioned this before in meetings, but it's highly recommended you guys have a hands-on workshop where you have a laptop or a computer so you guys can teach the public how to use it and so the public won't be confused. Another alternative would be to have screenshots of each step, both in English, Spanish, Punjabi, and all the languages. Have a screenshot so people can follow by step and they can learn how to use it. Something also previous speakers have brought up is the outreach on this attempt. A lot of disadvantaged communities do not have access to the internet. It is highly recommended that you guys send a flyer talking about all the redistricting process or saying what all the next meetings are going to be. So those people who do not have access to the internet can figure out about this process. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jesus Garcia. I'm the demographer that's created the maps that some folks are talking about here. What I'd like to say at the beginning is that these maps were created with official U.S. Census data. The population of Kern County is 909,235. That is what it's going to be from here until the future. We also have a new law, the California Fair Maps Act, that requires some changes. For instance, we're going to reduce 19,951 perhaps or more of the prisoner population. So the maps that we have right now that I've created with great input from many, 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 many people. I can show you the emails and the comments and the like. But they've been done with great effort and some great input. Again, as a demographer, as a statistician, you always think that what you do the first time is the best. Well, I've been proven wrong many, many times. What we have right now is our set of beautiful maps that are the result of the community voicing their opinions, pro, against, I want this, I want that, I want that. We have, for instance, all of the cities, counties, and places are, except for the Bakersfield, in one single location. Let me repeat that. Every city, every county, every place is in only one district. They're not split. The only split is obviously Bakersfield because it has to. I think Lori mentioned that right now our population of 909,000 is actually already higher than some estimates of what the Kern County population is supposed to be in the year 2030. So what we have here is a transformative change in the population of Kern County, in the population of the Central Valley, and I think it requires a transformative change by our leaders to pick maps that represent the community. Yes, we have District 1. It is very large. But tell you what, the distance from Taft to Boron in our proposed map is the same distance as from Taft to Boron in the current District 2. So it's a large district. We are a large county. The other large district is District 4. It goes from Lost Hills to Bakersfield. Again, very similar to somewhat what the map looks like right now. So we have 2 very large districts and then 3 districts that are in our metro area. Why is that? Because that's what the population, that's what the data tell us. Again, we have a transformative change in Kern County, and we require equally bold leadership to adopt maps that are representative of the entire community. Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
Afternoon.
Mi nombre es Marta Cisneros.
My name is Marta Cisneros.
Vengo para apoyar.
I am here to support
para apoyar el mapa de la coalición de equidad.
I'm here to support the Equitable Map Coalition.
Porque tendremos representación.
Because we will have representation.
Justa para las comunidades.
Fair for the communities.
De Arvin y Lamont.
Of Arvin and Lamont.
Yo les pido, ¿verdad?, que
I'm asking
se
you
toquen el corazón.
That you touch your heart.
Y nos vayan a visitar como estamos.
And you come and visit us to see how we are.
En Arvin y Lamont.
En la ciudad de en Arvin and Lamont.
Muchas gracias. Que Dios los bendiga.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Mi nombre es Teresa Macías.
My name is Teresa Macías.
Yo vivo para el área de la Cottonwood y la Blancs.
Yo vivo en la área de Cottonwood and Blancs. Sorry. I live in the area Cottonwood and Blancs.
Y no sé si es ciudad o es condado, no sé qué es.
I don't know if it's within the city or the county.
Y así está toda la gente, no sabe si es ciudad.
And everybody in the area, they don't know.
Le pasa algo, llama a la policía, no es la policía,
if
es
something
el
happens,
sheriff.
they call the police or sometimes the sheriff.
y no se sabe quién.
And we don't know.
Es como que ni de aquí ni de allá, ¿verdad?
We are not from one area or the other.
Y también cuando llueve.
And also when it rains.
Las comunidades de mi área no saben quién es su representante ni su supervisor.
The communities in my area don't know who represents them.
Yo porque vengo un poquito más acá, pero las demás si les pregunto no saben ni quién es.
I know because I come here, but the rest of the community don't know.
Entonces necesitamos más presencia en nuestras comunidades.
We need their presence in our community.
Y necesitamos más información, meetings en español en nuestras comunidades.
And we need more meetings in our communities in Spanish.
Y pues que vayan a vernos, porque cuando
They need
llueve
to come and see us.
Es un desastre ahí por todas esas, por el área de las calles de la.
Because when it rains, it's a disaster in that area.
Ya, y luego ahí va a haber están construyendo una high school y está la comunidad del establo de las vacas.
And then they're building a high school in.
El establo.
Say that again. Dígalo de nuevo.
Está el establo. Cuando las vacas, el aire se contamina mucho con las vacas.
And there's the stable area with there's a lot of cows and the air is contaminated with the smell.
Y los niños van a estar ahí,
and there's going to be children
respirando,
there, breathing.
Todo el día ese mal olor.
All that bad air and smell.
Entonces, pues hago una invitación
I'm
a que vayan a vernos,
so they can come and see
los mapas que se están presentando.
For you to consider the maps that are being presented.
Y pues, pues que se hagan más presentes, ¿verdad? Gracias.
That you make yourself present.
Gracias.
Gracias. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? All right. I want to thank you all for coming. If there's no other public comment, and just encourage you to visit our website at kerncounty.com/redistricting. You're more than welcome to email myself if you would like to come up and get that email address. Redistricting at kerncounty.com also does work. We did have one email address attached that was not working. We have corrected that error, but rest assured we are getting all of your emails. In addition, we have any of the community of interest forms and maps up here if you would like to take any of the documents we have up here. And that concludes our meeting. If there's any other public comment. Thank you all for coming, and our next meeting will be on September 28th here in the chambers at 3 p.m.
With the researcher understands that this is somebody who wants access to the records of the American people. So